We all should know by now the public static void main method. But what exactly does the static keyword mean? As you know, the main method is the entry point to your program. If you declare a variable, field, or method without a static keyword, it becomes a part of an object, meaning you need to create an instance of that object to use it. But here's the thing. The JVM needs to run your program without creating any object first. And that's exactly why the main method needs to be static. The static keyword in Java tells the compiler, hey, this member belongs to the class itself, not to a specific object. So whether it's a variable, method, block, or nested class, if it's marked static, you can use it without creating an object. Let's now explore some examples. First of all, we're going to create a new class, and we're going to call it util, short from utility. So class util, and inside of this we will create a public void method validate that will receive a string as a parameter. So public void validate string s. Inside this method we will check if the string is null, so if s equals null or if s is empty, not blank, empty. And if so, we will throw a new exception. For example, throw new illegal argument exception. Now, if we wanted to use this method, we would have to declare instance of the util class. So util equals new util. And now we can validate some string, for example, hello. But obviously, we don't want to create a new instance of util class every time we want to validate some string. And because this method is not dependent on any state of the object, I can just add the static keyword. And now we can just call this method without needing the instance of the object. As I said, validate method is not dependent on any state of the object. Let's create a private counter variable, private integer. I'll just int counter and set it to 0. Now, if we want to access this variable from the static method, let's check it. We can see that the program won't compile. And if we run it, we see error non-static variable counter cannot be referenced from a static context. But if we add static keyword to this variable, we can see that everything will work just fine. That is because the static variable starts to exist when the class is loaded. One benefit of that, or a drawback, is the fact that this variable is shared for every instance of the class. So there can only be one counter in the util class, but we are also guaranteed that we will always access this one counter. You learned now what is the deal with the static method and variables. But we have two more static members to talk about. That is the block and the nested class. The block is very rarely used. The syntax looks something like this. You write the static keyword and then open the curly braces, and then you can just print something, for example, or write any code you want. Block run. But what is interesting about this is that if we try to run this now, this program, nothing will be printed. That is because the static block is only called after the class is first used. For example, if we now use util validate, hello, we will see that the block is now run. I can't really find interesting real-life use case for this right now, but I'm sure that you can tell me something in the comments. Another use case for static keyword is a static nested class. Let's now create outer and inner class. So class outer and class inner. And we'll put a public show method in the inner class. Public show, public void show, and print inner class. If we now try to declare inner class instance, like this, inner equals new inner, as we can see, we can do that, even if, for example, we add outer and new outer inner. We can still see that we can do that. But if we add static keyword before the class, static class inner, as we can see, we can now do this. Fun fact is that if we add static before show method, we can call it without any problem like this. So outer, inner, and show, it will work just fine. But what is also important to know that if you have static variables, they won't be serialized by default. And if you are wondering what serialization even means, check out the next video. And till the next time, create some amazing applications.